AIM at AIM, the Atlanta Information Management Department. Hello, I'm Monica Pearson. AIM, the Department of Information Management, has a very clear mission to consistently deliver innovative, reliable, secure, and user-focused technology, and to make those solutions in every facet and department of city government. Now, the goal is to enhance the experience of every Atlanta resident, every visitor, and every stakeholder touched by city services. AIM guides all technology-related activities associated with the delivery of products and services for city departments. And that creates business value throughout the city. So I have two wonderful guests today on our program as we talk about Atlanta being recognized as the smartest city in America. How about that? Joining me today are Jason Sankey, Chief Information Officer for the City of Atlanta, and Donnie Beamer, Atlanta's first ever Senior Technology Advisor. Now, the vision for the Office of Technology is for Atlanta to be a leading hub of technical information and invention to become the best city in the world for people to live, work, and build success for themselves and their communities. Guys, that's a lot. I think we're well on our way in the city of Atlanta. As I said, since Atlanta has been described as the smartest city in America. Okay, tell me, what makes us the smartest city, Mr. Beamer?
Really, educational attainment. I think in the Forbes article that called that out? And so it's 60% of our population between, I guess, above 25, I think older than 25, have a four-year college degree. And so what that does, it creates this rich talent pool for the technology companies that are moving here and also to create more. And so that's one of the exciting aspects of Atlanta, because whatever you need, any type of engineer or leader, you can find them somewhere in this great diaspora.
So, Mr. Sankey, when I heard smartest city, I thought it would mean smartest not only in terms of education, but technologically smart.
So there's many aspects to it. Education being one, also infrastructure. So anyone who knows Atlanta is a very special place. We have infrastructure throughout the city that we leverage to really drive solutions and businesses. We have great partnerships. City of Atlanta is a huge hub for technology companies that are either headquartered here or have footprint here. And so we partner with them. So it's a combination of not only education, but technology, infrastructure, partnerships.
So what does it mean for the city to have this designation as the smartest? What does it mean, guys?
Doesn't really change anything for me. I mean, we're still hard charging to be better. I think it's nice to celebrate these wins and the recognition from other spaces around the country and world that we are worthwhile. But a lot of the work to be a top-tier tech hub is first shaping perception. And we need people to believe that we're great. And so it's different when we say it than when it comes from another reputable source like a Forbes or all these other places that are saying, it's the best place to live. Of course, the mayor's goal is for this to be the best place to raise a child. And so as that becomes true, or as that becomes told by someone else, then I think we're on the right track.
So as the Chief Information Officer, that means your job is multi-leveled.
Indeed. And I'll say, too, I'm honored for this recognition, but I'll also say it feels like we're doing something right. So when I think about our mayor and our mayor's 4 pillars for the city, one safe city, a city of opportunity for all, a city built for the future, and an effective and ethical government, I think about technology as the nucleus that brings all that together. And having this designation, I think, is validation that we're headed in the right direction.
So what was your original vision as the Chief Information Officer for the technology hub for us to be?
So when I came on board, we created a vision as a team and a mission. And our mission statement is to advance Atlanta by consistently delivering innovative, reliable, secure, and user-focused technology solutions. As I moved forward and got the real deal of how city government works. I came from county and state government before, and the private sector before that. City government is like nothing else. And one thing that really stood out is the people aspect of it. So it's not all about technology and systems, it's about the people that we serve in the communities and how we're delivering value to constituents, to businesses, to visitors, to every part of the ecosystem of Atlanta.
So how does that tie in with what you do, Mr. Beamer?
So, overarching goal, be a top 5 tech hub. The fine print has always been we want to build it equitably because there's this wealth gap. I mean, they talk about economic mobility in Atlanta being some of the worst in America. And so this is a pathway to creating generational wealth. Whether you create a tech company or join a tech company, and with the massive ones that have been moving here in recent years, right, we're trying to ensure that people from south of 20, right, know about those companies and can find ways there. And so thinking about my work, probably 20% of it is how do we find technology that the city can use for the citizen experience. And, that really ties into his work and AIM broadly. But 80% of where I've been spending my time is we want that tech to be built in Atlanta. So what can we do to give access to young people so they can create those new technologies and build businesses around them and stay here instead of moving to San Francisco or New York?
Well, that brings up the underserved communities where, you're talking about bringing people in and you're talking about teaching young people how to do these things. But how do we get the basic things for our underserved communities who may not even have the technology we're talking about? It's something as simple as a computer.
So I think it's intentional. So as we move our agenda forward, as we move the mayor's 4 pillars forward, it's taking that intentional roadmap to ensuring that everyone, as I mentioned before, a city for opportunity for all. So that's not for some, that's not in certain quadrants, but really focusing on the underserved. So I'll give you an example. We have this very successful program that we've partnered with Ike Smart City, and we have kiosks. You may have seen them throughout the city. They give free Wi-Fi, services, city services, wayfinding, all of these things that are useful for our communities. Well, when we signed the contract, we were very intentional, and we have 36% of those kiosks in traditionally underserved communities.
And I'll call out 2 other things. One attached to the kiosk, because that's a portal into all that's happening across the city. And because of that placement, you'll find out about things like Atlanta Tech Week. I don't know if you've heard about Atlanta Tech Week, but it was just last week, and there were over 200 events that brought together all these founders and funders. And, I was proud because we have 4 interns in our class through the Summer Youth Employment Program, which was created by, runs out of the mayor's office. And I think they put 5,000 young people to work last year, looking to do even more this summer. And so we took them and threw them right in the midst of it, and they got to meet CEOs and figure out how they could end up like them in the future. But that's not the only thing that occurred. We also have these esports labs that we're building in our Parks and Rec centers. When you talk about how do you reach people and kind of bridge that digital divide so they have access to high-speed internet and high-power computers. And so we've got 2 of them so far. The first one is in Thomasville. And so if you know Thomasville Heights, that neighborhood, it is the poorest census tract in Georgia. And you'd imagine that would be somewhere like Hazard County.
Not at all.
Right? But it's right here in Atlanta. And so after first installing it, we had 60 young people coming back every week to not just have a safe place to game, but also learn about careers in design and development. And that's the type of access and exposure that we want to create.
Because with that exposure, it also creates the ability to see beyond yourself, beyond where you are now. So I guess the question is, you were talking about collaboration. How do you collaborate with startups, with universities, and civic tech communities to make this work?
As the mayor always says, it's a group project, right? And so there's something that each of these stakeholders brings to the table. And so we think about, there are like 5 categories that I consider the core stakeholders in the ecosystem. The universities, which provide the talent and a lot of research. The government, which creates a business-friendly environment, and we are doing more support and collaboration across this space than ever before. corporates who become the customers, the acquirers, and investors of these startups. Then, of course, the founders that are willing to take the risk, and the investors that provide the risk capital. And so through those 5 stakeholders coming together to form Voltron, or however you want to think about it, right? Like we can be more effective together. And I think any deficiencies there, that'll call out where we should start to invest and try to bridge the gap. And so we've seen ourselves as the city try to play a role as an investor by creating programs to increase access to capital for founders. We did about $2 million in loans last year, $1.5 million in grants for startups, and that's non-recourse in both instances. And so trying to find ways to help people grow.
And in your office, you're not only working with the community, but you're working with people in a different way, because you're looking at all the departments in city government that need to be brought up to where they are technologically sound and working most efficiently. You got a lot on your plate.
I'm busy, and I will find time to sleep one of these days.
But what does this look like for you when you're looking at the departments that the city has that you now need to bring up to snuff?
So it all starts with going back to an effective and ethical government. So as we deliver services, whether we're talking public safety, or we're talking parks and rec, or we're talking watershed, or we're talking, you're right, I do have a lot on my plate. It's all about that citizen experience. So my team, I have a very strong team who is committed to making sure that what we do works, because if we have any hiccups from a technology perspective, it could impact someone's safety, as an example. If we have delays from a public safety response perspective, and that's all driven around technology, we put people's lives in danger. So we understand the value of the work that we do, and we have very good partnerships with our departments. They understand the priorities of the mayor. They understand our capacity and what we can and can't do, and we partner with vendors to help us deliver solutions when we don't have it in-house. But it all works together cohesively, and if one piece falters, it does cause disruption, because what do people expect technology to do? To work, right? Yeah. And we don't talk about it when it does work, but the moment it doesn't, that's a hot topic.
Well, what's next for both of you when it comes to maintaining our designation as the smartest city?
Well, a big focus for us this year is to be a customer. So, I talked about trying to bridge those gaps. Right? The customer is more valuable than an investor anytime. Revenue-fueled growth, that's a tendency you're seeing across many Atlanta companies like MailChimp. And so MailChimp, they were a bootstrapped company, and it was the biggest bootstrap exit of all time, like a $12 billion acquisition. And so we want to help support more of those stories with the large companies like OneTrust or Flock that are going to be like a Coca-Cola and Home Depot, like the brands that represent the city in the future. And if we can find ways to support them, because one thing that I'm a reformed entrepreneur myself.
A reformed entrepreneur.
And, I remember going to sell, have you ever used a Coke Freestyle? The soda machine? We made a Freestyle for cocktails. And so if you want a margarita, martini, you touch the screen, it would pour it for you. And we were selling to the Eagles and the Steelers and all these other sports venues, Churchill Downs. And I remember going to these spaces, and they said, "Oh, well, who do you work with in Atlanta?" And it was embarrassing because for a while we couldn't say anyone, right? But eventually the Hawks did take the risk on us. David Lee, we sat outside of his office. It was a crazy story. And we sat outside of his office for like 2 hours. And he said, "All right, man, come on. I'll hear you out." But that was one of the things that led to us deploying in what was then Phillips Arena, now State Farm, and then helped us because we had a marquee customer like we have across the Atlanta skyline. So 70% of the Fortune 500 is represented here in Atlanta. So if you're selling something B2B, you can find someone to buy it in town. But the thing is, if we're willing to take that risk and be a partner to a company at an early stage, it helps them grow. And so I think it would be awesome for us to do more of that. And we actually have some legislation in place that Mayor Dickens created back when he was a city councilman in 2014. That's called the Demonstration Project, and it will allow us to do a pilot with a startup. And so if we've got issues like water main breaks or things that are becoming headline news, we can find quick and innovative ways to try to solve those and do it in a fashion that still controlled. As he mentioned, we're not trying to put lives at risk, but I think to have the ability to, one, have access to those types of solutions, and then give them a chance to test it out in a 24/7 high intensity setting is valuable to everyone.
And just to add to that, when you think about the future, two things I'm excited about that we're looking at from a technology perspective. One thing is a connected city. So you go to some international cities and they have Wi-Fi available when you get off the plane, and when you get back on the plane is when you have that whole connected experience. So we're trying to have the same experience here within the city limits. So that way, as we have that influx of people, that we have connection and people feel safe with what they connect to because it's trusted by the city of Atlanta through one of our partners. Another thing we're looking at is think about a Siri or Alexa, but for the city of Atlanta. So asking Atlanta, ask ATL any questions around restaurant, traffic, parking, events, having that type of experience, but just to the city of Atlanta, because we all know Atlanta is special, right? So we need our own AI-driven device.
So then I've got to ask both of you, are you both from Atlanta, or are you transplants?
That is a good question. I'm going to answer for both of us. We are both transplants, but from very different parts of the U.S. I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, then lived in New York for about 10 years, then went back to Ohio, and now I am city of Atlanta, state of Georgia, love it.
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
from
Beamer?
Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I came to Atlanta for Georgia Tech many moons ago and did the same. Moved to New York for a bit, Philly, did stint in Michigan. My wife is from here. She's a Spelman alum. We didn't cross paths in Atlanta, which is probably for the best. Timing is everything. And so we met in New York, had this whole like Harlem love story, but came back here and have 2 kids. She's a professor at Emory. And I'm in the city government. So I think we're entrenched here for a while.
What makes for each of you individually and personally, what is special about Atlanta?
That's a great question.
Why do you want to be here?
So, like I mentioned, I've been in many cities, and there's nothing like the atmosphere of Atlanta. So I'll use 2 things. One, there's all of these different communities that are very different, and you'll have a different experience regardless of it's the same city, and that makes it special. The other thing I really like is the opportunities for people who look like me. And when I go into City Hall, when I first joined, there was a ton of diversity, and I'm not used to that in the cities that I worked in previously, but that's not the case here, especially with the city. So I think those things are very special and unlike any other place.
Mr. Beamer?
Yeah, the diversity in town, and it's diversity of all types, right? And so being able to find your tribes, you can feel safe and welcome and valued. I think that's been my experience here, because red or yellow, black or white, whether you are a vampire or Wiccan, whatever you believe you might, however you identify, you can find people here that to vibe with. And the city's been done right by me and my family, and my children are thriving. And I feel like that's a lot of the decisions you make now on where to go and live are centered around opportunity for them. And so back to the whole idea of there being a place that's an opportunity for all, and a legacy of Black excellence, like the building we're sitting in, built by the Russell family. So if there's any examples of, success for people of color, a lot of them come from here.
And now technology is going to lead the way.
That's the goal.
Yes.
It was construction
Yes.
for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And so they used to build things that you could physically touch. Now they build things that you can't. right? But they're all around us. So
Connecting us
Indeed.
and helping us live better. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Technology is really helping us all live better. And I'm even learning to be a better technological person. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you'll join us the next time when we talk about technology and the city of Atlanta.